Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here, and continuing on the Don Howorth interview series, today we hear from Don Howorth as to his experience training at two of the most hardcore gyms in the 1960s, namely Vince's Gym, as well as his experience training at Pasadena Gym. In previous videos in this series, we have learned how Don began his bodybuilding training by focusing on fundamentals and emulating his idol Steve Reeves. Don was to later train at both Pasadena Gym, where he would build the majority of his mass, and later sculpt, define, and perfect his physique at Vince's Gym. And in these interviews that I'm going to present today, Don recalls his times at both gyms and describes the bodybuilding gym scene in the 1960s. And throughout this video, I will also go through some very rare photos from the late Gene Mosé, which show Don training at both Pasadena Gym and Vince's Gym. Here is the first video interview from June 2020. Enjoy.
Like I said, at one time, it was a blessing in disguise. I went to Vince's Gym because I had to reorganize my workout because I was working out. I went from a modern type gym, Pasadena Gym, which belonged to Gene, to Stonehenge at Vince's Gym, you know, so.
Yeah, you've said before. So you've said that famous quote that you've mentioned in the past, that Vince was like Stonehenge?
No, the gym. Everybody asked me how I ever got big. I said I did everything Vince told me not to do.
Yeah. So Vince's Gym, you said, was like Stonehenge?
Oh, yes, compared to Pasadena, yes.
How so?
Oh God, I don't know if I got that much time left in my life. For one thing, it was airier. It had a very high roof. It was divided off in different sections of powerlifting and strength and pulleys and things like that. Vince was Vince had rope for pulleys. I mean, I said, why the hell did anybody want rope for pulleys? Why don't they just use the cable, you know?
Right.
And the incline benches were all right. Vince, I think, only had one standing incline bench, and I finally convinced him to attach it to the pole. That's one of the supports for the ceiling inside Vince's Gym. But at Pasadena Gym, they had several standing inclines, which is a very good piece of equipment for at that time, you know.
Yeah. So you much rather, well, you have a better experience having trained at Pasadena Gym than at Vince's Gym?
Well, I mean, Vince's Gym was what, 25 by 25 inside, and Pasadena Gym was like, you know, one room was 25 by 25, and the other one was where everybody bench pressed and they had dumbbells up to 200 pounds or over that, you know, because there are a lot of people like Pat Casey and some of the heavy guys they had a heavy room, and then they had the other room that was for shaping and double pulleys, great chinning bars, and great pull down machines. I mean, the pull down machine at Vince's Gym belonged to Jack LaLanne, and it was just, I mean, it
Wow.
was a strange machine. The plates, and it had two rods that they were going up on. Plus they had cuts on each side of it where they were guided up and down without, and it was real rickety, you know.
Yeah.
I never did much pull down there because the machine only went up to like, I don't know, 180, maybe 200 pounds. I guess you'd have to get some chain and tie on some plates to get onto it. It was, like I said, it's very Stonehenge, you know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Gene was 23 years old when he opened that gym up, and all the people I've known, there's not too many of them still alive, say that's one of the best gyms they ever worked out in their life. And they said, what was it, Bill Pearl? Says, no, Gene Mosé opened that gym in 1958, you know.
Right. Wow.
After listening to this video interview, Don describes what it was like training at Vince's gym in Pasadena Gym, and using some of the digital photos from my Gene Mosaic collection, we can visualize what Don describes. He says that Vince's gym was like Stonehenge, in that it was smaller and older than what he was used to, having trained already at Pasadena Gym, with a lot less equipment, and some of the equipment was actually quite old. Pasadena Gym, on the other hand, was considered a modern gym at the time, with a high roof, and it had lots of space in both a powerlifting area and a bodybuilding area. Pasadena had more equipment. For example, there was only one standing incline bench at Vince's gym, but there were several at Pasadena Gym. There was a good dumbbell set as well at Pasadena Gym, going up to really high weight in dumbbells. And Don even recalls seeing Pat Casey using over 200 pounds on each dumbbell, that is, using 200-pound dumbbells for incline bench pressing, which is pretty incredible. Don states that Gene Mosaic opened Pasadena Gym in 1958, when Gene was only 23 years old, and that Gene knew what the best equipment was. Pasadena Gym attracted both powerlifters and bodybuilders, and was one of the most hardcore gyms ever during the 1960s. Namely, I remember because Gene and his also friend Richard Key had learned quite a lot from Joe Gold, and of course Joe Gold, coming from Muscle Beach, had picked up a lot of tips from the Silver Era legends. So you can see the knowledge passing on from the Silver Era to the early Golden Era times. Now, the next interview we will now hear about was a phone interview from Don that I made with him, of course, in June 2019. Here it is.
Basically, when I got the Vince's, I just had to organize it to what Vince had, because working out of Pasadena Gym and going to Vince's was like working out of Stonehenge.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was the Pasadena Gym. It was the Pasadena Gym that was the power gym.
Yeah, well, it was it was power gym, but I represented him. I don't know, maybe there's a few other guys that did bodybuilding contests that were from Pasadena Gym, but I guess I was the main guy that entered the Mr. Los Angeles. See, Mr. Fiesta, I entered twice, and I entered Mr. Junior Los Angeles, Mr. Los Angeles probably like 2 or 3 times, and Mr. California about the same thing, you know.
And this gym was owned by who? Is it Bill Pearl's gym?
What now?
The Pasadena Gym. Whose gym was that?
That was Gene Mosaic's.
Oh, that was Gene Mosaic. Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to get all this information organized.
Yeah, see, Gene and Richard Key. Well, Gene put the gym together, and his buddy that he's known, he knew Richard a long time before I ever knew him. They went through high school and all that stuff, and they lived in the same neighborhood. So they both came over, and Gene opened it up. And I was amazed that, he was only 22 or 23 when he opened it up. So It was one of the greatest gyms I ever worked out in. Like I said, when I went to Vince's gym, I thought, oh man, this is about Stonehenge, And
Now, from this oral interview, we hear from Don's first impressions of Vince's gym, as well as his early competitive bodybuilding years while at Pasadena Gym. Don states, "When I went to Vince's, I had to work with what Vince had. It was like working out at Stonehenge." So he's said that several times, and he basically describes the Pasadena Gym as a power gym now. And this is why I thought that I would also include this phone interview, because with each interview that I have with Don, he kind of gives different perspectives each time. So it's very interesting to now learn more about Pasadena Gym, in that he thought it was more like a powerlifting gym. And basically Don represented Pasadena Gym in bodybuilding shows, because he was the main guy from Pasadena Gym as a bodybuilder that entered these bodybuilding contests during the 1960s. Don clearly states that he was training at Gene Mosaic's Pasadena Gym when he won the Mr. Fiesta, the Junior Mr. LA, and the Mr. LA, as well as the Mr. California. Don calls it the greatest gym ever, at least the greatest gym that he ever trained in, and believes that it was much better than Vince's gym. And indeed, Pasadena Gym is not talked about much these days. But in Iron Game History, a publication written by the Stark Center in Austin, Texas, they also mentioned that it produced some of the strongest and best physiques of the time. It clearly is a forgotten gym, with most people remembering Vince's gym and Gold's gym as bodybuilding began to bloom in the late 60s and early 70s. However, training environments for hardcore lifters were few and far between in the late 50s and early 60s, and Pasadena Gym, like the Dungeon, were the most hardcore underground gyms during that time. Now, from these interviews, I have to admit what I find most impressive about Don Howorth and the bodybuilders really from the golden era is that even though they trained in these gyms which had limited equipment, they were still able to develop the most aesthetic physiques in bodybuilding history. It is obvious that Don enjoyed training at both gyms, and whilst Gene Moset's Pasadena Gym had more equipment and space, this meant longer hours in the gym, whilst the limited equipment at Vince's gym meant that Don had to condense his workout, which, as he put it, was a blessing in disguise. In defense of Vince's gym, Vince stated many times that he would only carry equipment that he thought was useful to the bodybuilder. For example, Vince owned an original Clark machine, which Don believed was one of the best arm machines he ever used, and we'll hear about that in a later interview actually. Along with other specific equipment, Don definitely made the most of the equipment from Pasadena Gym and Vince's gym, as is obvious through the images that still exist today. So I do hope you have enjoyed these interviews with Don Howorth and his recollections of training in the early to late 60s in two of the most hardcore gyms in the world. In the next video on this series, I will introduce the man that helped Don build his mass, and I can tell you that it was not Vince Gironda. If you have enjoyed watching this video, please like and share, and please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. To support this channel, become a patron and enjoy my bodybuilding library of photos, articles, and books, or please visit my website for out-of-print books and courses on old school bodybuilding. For example, you will find Don Howorth's Developing Dynamic Delts, as well as his idols booklets, that is Steve Reeves, such as Developing Broad Shoulders, Tips on Developing the Waist, Rib Expansion Full Body Routine from Steve Reeves, and his calf development routine, that is his specialization routine for calf development, all available on my website www.goldenerabookworm.com. Email me as well if you wish to collaborate or pass on your books, magazines, and bodybuilding relics. And if you so desire, financial donations are always welcome through PayPal. That's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now. To take full advantage of my collaboration with Old School Labs, please visit their website and choose from their marvelous range of supplements using my code BOOKWORM12. And for an entertaining look at the history of bodybuilding's supplement industry, I would highly recommend watching Subs the Movie, which I have collaborated in, available at Amazon Prime and Vimeo.